This is our final presentation for organizational behavior, presented by Kaila Provost and Makenzie Hospodka. The topics that we will be discussing are attitudes and job satisfaction, personality and values, perception and individual decision-making, sexual harassment with unequal power in the workplace, social identity theory, and the behavior theories of leadership.
The first topic we will be discussing are the major job attitudes found in the workplace. In your daily life, you encounter thousands of different attitudes. However, working a job brings about very specific attitudes, including job satisfaction, job involvement, organizational commitment, perceived organizational support, and employee engagement. Job satisfaction occurs when an employee receives positive feelings that result from characteristics of their job. Job involvement measures the degree to which a person identifies with the job, actively participates in it, and considers performance important to their self-worth. Organizational commitment is how much an employee identifies with a particular organization and its goals. Perceived organizational support is the degree to which employees believe an organization values their contribution. Finally, employee engagement is the employee's involvement and satisfaction with and enthusiasm for their work. All of these attitudes have extreme impact on the organization as a whole and their success. The second topic is the Big Five personality model. This model is a personality assessment that encompasses the most significant variations in human personality. These 5 traits include extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and openness to experience. This assessment is used in many organizations to show one's value to the company and determine their strong suits. Emotional stability characterizes someone as calm, self-confident, and positive. Extroversion describes a person who is sociable, outgoing, and assertive. Openness to experience is the trait that characterizes someone in terms of imagination, sensitivity, and curiosity. Agreeableness is the quality of someone who is good-natured, cooperative, and trusting. And finally, conscientiousness is arguably the most valuable trait and describes a person who is responsible, dependable, persistent, and organized.
In Chapter 6, we talked about common shortcuts in judging others. We have selective perception because our brains take in a massive amount of data every second. This allows us to use shortcuts to make accurate perceptions. However, this can also result in premature judgments that can be very wrong. Selective perception is used because we can't possibly take in all the information around us. We see what we want to see and ignore other factors that can lead to a more accurate perception. Some of these effects are halo effect, contrast effect, and stereotyping. With halo effect, we make a general impression about someone based on one characteristic. Contrast effect is when you evaluate someone's characteristics based on other people you know with that same characteristic. Stereotyping is judging someone on the basis of one's perception of a group that that person belongs to. These are all very common but should also be avoided. These shortcuts can also have a huge effect in the workplace as well. In most employment interviews, the interviewer knows if they want to hire the candidate in the first couple minutes. This makes the first impressions very essential. In performance expectations, if an employer expects low performance from you, you'll probably have low performance. This also works the same way with high performance expectations. This is also known as self-fulfilling prophecy, which means that people's expectations determine their behavior. Because these shortcuts are usually very subjective, they also significantly affect performance evaluations. In Chapter 13, we talked about sexual harassment and the abuse of power. Sexual harassment is defined as any unwanted activity of a sexual nature that affects an individual's employment and creates a hostile work environment. In many cases, this happens when there are large differentials in power in the workplace. People in higher positions abuse their power and use this unwanted behavior on people in lower positions. They use threats that the person will lose their job if they refuse the sexual favors. This behavior can have a huge negative impact on the organization. Not only can the legal dangers be costly, but it creates a negative culture that leads to negative job attitudes and feeling of withdrawal from the organization. Data from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission indicates that 25 to 40% of individuals report being sexually harassed. Research shows that this is decreasing partly due to the increased training and awareness organizations have been providing.
Chapter 9 covered the social identity theory. Our tendency to take personal pride or offense for the accomplishments of a group is the territory of social identity theory. People have emotional reactions to the failure or success of their group because their self-esteem gets tied into the group's performance. People develop many identities through the course of their lives. You might define yourself in terms of the organization you work for, the city you live in, your profession, your religious background, your ethnicity, or your gender. Several characteristics make up social identity theory. Similarity, which is when people have higher levels of group identification, when people have the same values. Distinctiveness, people are more likely to notice identities that show how they are different from other groups. Status, because people use identities to define themselves and increase self-esteem. And uncertainty reduction. Membership in a group also helps some people understand who they are and how they fit into the world. Social identities help us understand who we are and where we fit in with other people, but they can have a negative side effect as well. In-group favoritism occurs when we see members of our in-group as better than other people, and people not in our group as well as all the same. Chapter 12 went over behavioral theories of leadership. Behavioral theories of leadership implied we could train people to be leaders. The leadership behavior described by employees is broken up into initiating structure and consideration. Initiating structure is the extent to which a leader is likely to define and structure his or her role and those of employees in the search for goal attainment. It includes behavior that attempts to organize work relationships, and members to particular tasks, expects workers to maintain definite standards of performance, and emphasizes the meeting of deadlines. Consideration is the extent to which a person's job relationships are characterized by mutual trust, respect for employees' ideas, and regard for their feelings. A leader high in consideration helps employees with personal problems, is friendly and approachable, treats all employees as equals, and expresses appreciation and support. The employee-oriented leader emphasizes interpersonal relationships by taking a personal interest in employees' needs and accepting individual differences among them. And the production-oriented leader emphasizes technical or task aspects of jobs, focusing on accomplishing the group's tasks. Employee-oriented leadership is similar to consideration, and production-oriented leadership is similar to initiating structure. These two terms are used simultaneously between researchers.
I hope you've enjoyed our presentation. Please comment below if you have any questions.